वागीशमत्याः सर्वार्थानामुपक्रमे यं नत्वा कृतकृत्यास्थिभूतं नमामि गजाननम् पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्ददामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् सदाशिवसमारम्भं शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् योगिनं विश्वनाथाख्यम् स्मक्तातस्वरूपिणम् आत्मलाभात् परं लाभं वक्तारं न कदाचन गीतार्थग्रन्थकर्तारं श्रीगुरुं प्रणमाम्यहम् योऽन्तः प्रविश्य मे वाचं धृतिं बुद्धिं प्रचोदयात् ॐ नमः सभाभ्यः सभापतिभ्यश्च वो नमः। Friends, we are going to be doing Gita regimen for Advaitic living, number 33. We shall be seeing shlokas 6:11 to 6:15, chapter 6, 11 to 15. We have just seen how yogi yunjita sadatam atmanam rahasi sthitah ekaki yathachitta atma virashir aparigraha. Yogi, a seeker of yoga, has to keep on doing this yoga exercise atmanam rahasi sthitah, sitting in a secluded place, ekaki, alone, yatachitta atma, having controlled his mind as well as his body, nirashi, with no desires, no expectations, aparigraha, no thought of any possession. Such is the prerequisite for starting meditation in the yoga regimen. And now Krishna gives some details about the asana. शुचौदेशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य स्थिरमासनमात्मनः नात्युच्छ्रितं नातिनीचं चैलाजिनकुशोत्तरम्. श्लोक number 11. शुचौदेशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य, having selected and seated in a clean place, स्थिरमासनमात्मनः, get a firm seat for yourself. Natyukshitam natinicham, neither too high, neither too low. Chaila jana kushottaram, chaila ajina kushottaram. Kusha is at the bottom, then the ajina, then the chaila. Kusha is darba grass. Ajina is deer skin, chaila is cloth. Cloth for the softness of the seat, ajina, the deer skin, for the purity and for preventing the cloth from folding, and kusha, which is at the bottom, is for sattva inspiration and activation. Of course, commentators had an extra rider that the deer skin that you select should not be that of a deer which did not die a natural death. If somebody had killed a deer, that deer skin pratishtapya sthiramasanamaatmanah natyukshitam natinicham chailajinakushottaram. Previous sloka he said, yogi yunjita sadatam atmanam rahasi sthitah, select a solitude place of solitude, sit there, ekaki, alone, yadachitta atman, having controlled your mind and self, nirashir aparigraha, with no desires, no expectations, no thought of any possession. Yogi yunjita sadatam, always do the yoga exercise, the meditation exercise, and then the asana has been described in number 11. Now you go to number 12, a very significant, important shloka for the regimen of meditation. तत्रैकाग्रं मनः कृत्वा यतचित्तेन्द्रियक्रियम् उपविश्यासने युञ्ज्यात् योगमात्मविशुद्धये. Tatra, that place, having selected the seat and seated yourself well. In fact, the general rule for the seating is you should sit in such a way. Of course, they will talk to you about Padmasana and so many other things, but sit in such a way, position or any other part of the body. They should not distract you. That is the whole idea. Anyway, Tatraikagram Manakritva, there in that seat, Ekagram Manakritva, very important statement. Ekagram, one pointed, Ekagram, one pointed, Manakritva, making, keeping the mind one pointed, one pointed. This is the crucial point actually which characterizes meditation and distinguishes it from concentration. What is concentration? In a math problem we concentrate, in a chess game we concentrate, in playing tennis when we receive the service we concentrate because we have to see on which side the ball comes, which side, whether you must be ready for a backhand stroke or a forward stroke or whatever you see. So that is all concentration. Concentration, but it is not one pointed, because in a math problem or a chess game or even in receiving the service, alert to multifarious things which are connected to our action or involvement, whether the ball is going to come this side, whether I am going to use the forward or whether I am going to use the backward stroke. I am ready for both. I am watching multifarious things. In a math problem also, you have to see various aspects of the math problem that you are having. In a chess game, certainly, it is not a question of concentrating one pointed on one thing. You have to see what the other moves are, what are the successive moves, what could be the possible other moves, in what way you can do the next move. So many things you have to think. So that is all concentration, of course. Of course, concentration is preliminary to meditation. In concentration, we allow our minds to keep thinking and processing several preliminary or follow-up steps, right, pertaining to our action. So concentration is what is called dharana. Dharana. Dhyan. Even concentration is not meditation, I told you just now. Contemplation is also not meditation, because contemplation is like putting together pieces of a puzzle. Meditation, on the other hand, is the capability of pointing our mind in one direction on one object and fixing it there. Concentration and contemplation are certainly preliminaries, preparation of the mind for meditation. But what makes it meditation is the keeping of the mind steady for a time on one object, in one ekagrata. Ekagrata is the key word. Tatraikagram manakritva. So we have to make the mind one pointed. That is meditation. Dhyana, therefore, is the setting up of a continuous stream of similar thoughts. The thoughts should not go from one direction to another direction, from one subject to another subject. No. The thought should be the same similar thought, continuous stream of similar thoughts. Beautiful words Shankara Acharya has used. Samana pratyaya pravahakaranam. Samana pratyaya pravahakaranam. The flow of similar thoughts. That is how the mind has to be made, prepared, organized. You see, with an effort, with a great effort. This is actually stilling the mind. This is what they call stilling the mind. Stilling the mind does not mean all thoughts should be away. All thoughts cannot be away. Always the mind remember, is like a river bed. Thoughts flow over the river, over the river bed. Keep flowing. Thoughts will not stop. It will keep flowing. It will keep flowing. But you have to make the thought one thought. That's the whole thing. So this is the so-called stilling of the mind. Stilling of the mind with the help of the mind. That is of course, that is the difficulty of the art of meditation. So then, tatraikagram manakritva ekagram manakritva, I have explained. This shloka is very significant for the understanding of the regimen of meditation. Ekagram manakritva. No amount of emphasis will be more. Yata chittendriya kriyaha. Yata control, chitta mind, indriya senses, kriyaha action. Yata chittendriya kriyaha, controlling the activities of the mind as well as of the senses. Chitta indriya kriyaha, kriya action. Any involuntary movement of the limbs is taboo. You see, I am moving my chair like this. This is involuntary. This is all taboo. You cannot meditate like this, doing this. You know, there are people who cannot sit quiet in a chair or in their bed. They have to keep waving their hands or tossing their legs and feet here and there always. In fact, I had a friend who used to sit in an office meeting. He himself was an officer, but in a meeting where several people, about 8 or 9 people are sitting, he will have a ballpoint pen in his hand and he will keep rotating it this way and that way, and then pressing it hard. Then your ballpoint, you press it, and then you release it, press it, you release it, press it, you release it. He will keep on doing this, infinite number of times during a 2-hour meeting. It will be, this is all rajas. This is too much of rajas. So yata chittendriya kriyaha, he says, the mind has to be controlled, the senses have to be controlled, their activities have to be controlled. Activities have to be controlled. Remember, yata kriyaha, watch me, listen carefully. Yata kriyaha is a phrase which Krishna never uses except at this place. Only when the meditation is there, the activity should stop. You see, he has said many times, Jnanatmika karmanam, all actions are consumed by jnana. Does not mean that activity stops. The agency of the activity stops there. You don't claim agency for the action, but you do your action. Naiva kinchit karomi iti yukto manye tasattvapi, 4th chapter. I am not doing anything. Alipyate, another place, 4th chapter, I think. Yoga sanyasta karmanam, 4th chapter again, ending. Yoga sanya, by yoga you have to renounce all action. Does not mean that you run away from action or keep quiet. No, you are not. You are doing your action, but you are not claiming any agency for the action. I am not doing any action. Naiva kinchit karomi iti pashyam, shanvan, sprishan, jagran. He has listed all the actions of the man. Even if you are doing all these things, naiva kinchit karomi iti. So that is agency of action is what is discarded in the Nahankarta regimen of Gita. But yata kriyaha, no action at all. No movement of the limbs, no waving of the hand, anything, no movement. Yata kriyaha, yata chittin. For meditation, this is absolutely necessary. That is why he is telling that right at this place. This is the only place the phrase yata kriyaha is used. A little while ago he has said yata chittatma nirashir aparigraha. The previous sloka, the Shitaudesh, no, yogi yunjita sasatam atmanam rahasisthitam ekaki yata chittatma. Even there he did not say Kriyaha. This is the place. This is where the meditation is happening. Tatraika Brahmana Krutva. Having done the manas, Ekagra, one pointed, Yathachittendriya Kriyaha. Controlling the mind, its activities, Indriyas and its activities. Upavishya Asane Yunjat. So sitting in your asana, which has been described in the previous sloka, Yunjat. Keep doing the yoga exercise, meditation. Yogamatma Vishuddhaye. Again, in this sloka, Ekagram Manakritva is one key word. Yatachittendriya Kriyaha is another key phrase. Atma Vishuddhaye, Yogam Yunjat. Keep doing the yoga. He never said do dhyana yoga. Yogam Yunjat. It's a yajna. Yunjat. Atma Vishuddhaye, for purity of the self. Sir, what is the purity of the self? Self is always pure. What is the meaning of purity of the self? The small self. It's not capital self. It is a small self. Atma Vishuddhaye, purification of the mind. What do you mean by this to go? For the sins to go and vasanas to go, you have to utter the name of God repeatedly. Repeated verbalization of God's name. We have to see it. We are going to see it in 7th, 8th, 9th chapters. That is different. Here the purification of the mind is the mind thinks that meditation means there is something before me. I have to look at it, I have to keep it, I have to look at the form, I have to look at that, and then I have to. Mind keeps on thinking of an object outside of the capital self. That is what has to be purified. Be careful. Purification of the mind just is not ordinary cleansing of the mind from all its sins and seat of yoga, meditation. Mind has to get away from the thought that the object of meditation is outside the self. The conviction has to come that I am already the self. Aham Brahmasmi. Because later he is going to say in I think 24th sloka or something, Atmasam Sammanakritva. That is the central key word of the whole 6th chapter. I will explain to you at that time. Atmasam Sammanakritva. That is, the mind has to be anchored in Atman. Actually, that itself is a wrong usage. Why? Because there is only the Atman. There is no mind separately. But in order to convey some idea, you have to use such words. Atma sammanakritva. I am already the self. That is where you have to be. Your thought should be on the self. Repeatedly remembering that I am the self. There is nothing other than the self. You see? So then, Tatraika Brahmanakritva Yatachittendriya Kriyaham Upavishyasane Yunjat Yogamatma Vishuddhaye. Atma Vishuddhaye Yogam Yunjat. For the purification of the self, do the yoga. Yatachittendriya Kriyaha. You see, he just a little while ago he said Yatachitta Atma. Krishna is never tired of reminding us of the pratyahara prerequisite for yoga. This controlling the mind, controlling the senses, this is pratyahara, withdrawing the senses from the sense objects, just as the tortoise withdraws its limbs within itself. This you have to do. That is the pratyahara. He is never tired of reminding us, and there are umpteen places in Gita where he keeps on telling us about how to withdraw it. So, Yatachittendriya Kriyaham Upavishyasane Yunjat Yogamatma Vishuddhaye. Sloka number 13. Krishna is following the regimen, the actual regimen of meditation. That's what I am telling you. How to do, how to meditate. That's what is coming here. Samam kaya shirokam dharayan achalam stiram sampretshya nasikakram swam dishasya anavalokayan. Samam kaya shirogrivam. Kaya shira griva. Kaya is body, shiras is head, griva is neck. These things must be erect. Spine erect, that's what it means. Holding the body, head and neck erect. Samam, evenly. Achalam stiraha, achalam, steadily, without any movement. You see, that yatachittendriya kriya is further explained here. Without any movement, achalam, like a mountain. That is why the word achalam is used. Achala, mountain is achala. No, not even the least type of movement. So this has to be there. Well, what does it do? This prevents the possibility of sleep or lethargy, which are of course obstacles for meditation. Sthira, being, just now he said achalam, not moving, but being firm, what does it mean? The other parts of the body also should not move. Samam kaya shirogrivam dharayan achalam sthira. Kaya, shira and griva, head, neck and body should be kept without movement. The other parts of the body might be tempted to be moving. No, even that. The other parts of the body also should not move. Sthiraha. So the yatachittendriya kriya, that yatakriya is being explained here. So thus, the mind is helped not to think of the body at all. Motionless, erect, proper posture prescribed by the Raja Yogi. In Raja Yoga, these elaborate explanations are there to do this. Dharayan achalam sthiraham sampretsha nasikagram swam. Sampretsha, looking at, nasikagram, the tip of the nose, swam, one's own tip nose, in order to avoid distraction and dozing. So this is going to be very difficult. Of course it is difficult, not only difficult, but it is itself a distraction. You keep the eye on the tip of the nose, then you will not be thinking of the self. So that is why Acharya Shankara very clearly says, as if sampretsya nasikagram iva. Sampretsya nasikagram swam. Fixing the gaze as if on the tip of the nose, thus avoiding distraction and dozing. Because the concentration has to be on the self. The concentration should not be diverted or distracted to the tip of the nose. Atma samsam. This is the objection, I think, for a Vedantin's yoga to keep his mind on the flame before. You see, the yoga teachers sometimes say, have a flame before you, look at that, concentrate. But then that is not meditation on the self, it is meditation on the flame. Meditation on the self, again on the self is a wrong usage, as I told you. Atma samsam manakritva. The concentration has to move to the self. That is why the tip of the nose gazing is to be as if. So these are details. Again the 14th sloka gives you more details of the yoga, Vedantin's yoga. Prashanta Atma. 12 and 14 are the most significant slokas. Number 12, Tatraikagram Manakritva and Prashanta Atma Vigatabi Brahmachari Brate Sthitaha Manasamyam Yamachitto Yukta Asitamatparaham. Prashanta Atma, mind has been quelled, kept at peace. Vigatabi, fearless. Vigatabi, fears have gone. What are these fears? When you think of the other, there is always the fear. If there is no other in Advaita, Advaita is the only fearless thing. Vigatabi. आनंदो ब्रह्मेति व्यजानाति न बिभेति कदाचनेति न बिभेति कुतश्चनेति. Taittiriya Upanishad cries from the housetops. न बिभेति कदाचनेति. No fear any time, ever. No, does not fear from anything. Anando Brahmeti Abhijana, the bliss, the final bliss, that is Brahman. That the final bliss is what we are going to get here by this kind of meditation. Prashanta Atma Vigata B means fear. Brahmachari Brate Sthitaham, being in the vow of Brahmacharya, continence in word, thought and deed. Manassamyamyamachitto. Again in this shloka itself is significant, as I told you. The second line is most significant. Manassamyamyamachitto yukta asihi tamatparah. Manassamyamya. Samyamya is the key word. For Patanjali, samyama is control, self-control. Samyama for him is the integrated equivalent of three things: dharana, dhyana, samadhi. You know, yama, niyama, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. These are the 8 limbs of yoga. We have come to the dharana and dhyana now. But dharana, dhyana, samadhi, the integrated equivalent, he calls it samyama. For him, dharana is confinement of chitta, the mind, within any center of containment of the body. In the body there are 9 chakras. There are other places where you can concentrate the mind on. So confinement of chitta within any center of containment in the body, that is called dharana according to Patanjali. But in Vedanta, it is fixing the mind on the self. Dharana. Atmasam sammana krutva. I will keep on repeating this because that is the key word. Atmasam sammana krutva. Keeping the mind on the self, anchored to the self. Dhyana. The word dhyana has not been used here. You see that. Dhyana is pratyaya ekatanata. Patanjali, this is. Prati means against. Aya means flow, reaction or counter flow. The thought, you see, there should be no counter thought, there should be no other thought, right? A reaction thought, reactive thought. So ekatavanata, same thread, one moment, another moment, each moment has a thought. Each moment has a thought. That thought and this thought should be similar, in fact should be the same. Tana is thread. Ekatavanata, same thread of thought. The inner response and the outer concentration. There is an inner response and the outer concentration. They must become one piece, one thread. There should be the response and the outer concentration should not be different. So ekatavanata, this is Patanjali's definition of dhyana. Pratyaya ekatavanata. There are other key words here in the shloka. Matchittaha, matparaha. Matchittaha, keeping the mind on me, thinking of me, thoughts directed towards me. Matchittaha. Matparaha, deeming me as the supreme reality. Matparaha. Remember, first time in the 6th chapter he is using the word me. Matparaha, matchitta. This is the Ishvara Pranidhana of Patanjali's Yoga Shastra. Ishvara Pranidhana, means the thought should be directed towards God. Here, that is why Krishna says, Matchittaha, Matparaha, contemplation. This is what is meant by Matchittaha, Matparaha. Matchittaha, profound faith. Matparaha, respectful contemplation. No, the other way, I'm sorry. Matchittaha indicates respectful contemplation. Matparaha indicates profound faith in the me, capital Me, Krishna, Lord. These two words are the key words for the concept of meditation. Mat chitta, mat paraha. Because the spiritual light within us, it is the innermost core of all the cores of ourselves. The self, the Atman. It is the microcosmic reality. See, modern students seem to understand the microcosmic reality. They may not understand the Atman, but they seem to understand the microcosmic reality. That is why I keep using both. You say Atman, they look at the ceiling, they have not understood anything. But you say microcosmic reality, which I don't understand, they understand. Modern student. Anyway, that is the Atman. But looking the other way outside, macrocosmically, Upanishads declare that though space is the most subtle of all these things, earth, water, fire and air and space. Space is the most subtle. There is something more subtle than space. That is what the Upanishad says. And that is Brahman. That is Brahman. Atmana akasha sambhuta. The space itself has come from the Atman. Taittiriya Upanishad. So that is Brahman, the macrocosmic reality. And then the Upanishads go on to declare beautiful statement that there are no two realities. There is no separate microcosmic reality. There is no separate macrocosmic reality. The micro and the macro are the same. There is only one reality, Atman and Brahman. Though you are giving names for this Atman and that Brahman, Atman and Brahman are one and the same. This is the famous declaration, Upadesha of the Upanishads. So to realize this should be the one. What is the meaning of spiritual seeking? Sir, I am going to be spiritually working hereafter. Work for what? To realize this. To achieve this, one has to meditate. So you have to observe and practice all the prerequisites for meditation. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, all those things. But for this seeking, this search, this exercise to succeed, we have to first cease to be ourselves. That is the most difficult thing. That is what makes the art of meditation so difficult, so mysterious. Because we have to be ceased to be ourselves. We have to get away from the thought that I am the body, mind, intellect. So this again has to happen through the medium of the mind. So the mind has to achieve that ekagrata towards the self. This is what is meant by stilling the mind. What should be, mind should be vacant. It cannot be vacant any time. It has to be thinking. Stilling the mind is only the so-called stilling the mind is only the starting point of meditation. How do you then try to still the mind and give it ekagrata? This is the fundamental question finally. How to get the mind to get ekagrata? Tatraikagram manakritva. Easily Krishna has said, ekagram manakritva. There are several methods. Each yoga teacher will give you a different method perhaps. There are several methods. I am not capable of telling you all the different methods of stilling the mind. But I know of one methodology which is familiar to me. It is called Japa Sahita Dhyana. Japa means repeated verbalization of a mantra or a syllable. What does that repetition do? Repeated verbalization. It prevents the mind from its vagaries of keeping on to facts, ideas, concepts, things, events, physical sensations of discomfort, everything, pain, ease, excitement, keeps on thinking, mind one after the other. Mind is never tired of thinking. It thinks, keeps on thinking. Even when it is tired, it thinks. So, these vagaries have to be stopped only by a repetition of a mantra or a syllable. That is the japa. Secondly, japa has another use. It trains the mind to focus attention on one subject. Japa is ceaseless repetition of one verbal expression. Om Namo Narayanaya. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. Shri Rama Sharanam Mama. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Shivaya. All these things. Ceaseless repetition of one verbal expression and a consequent concentration on the meaning or significance of the same. Of course, you have to get that syllable from a guru. There is no doubt about it. You cannot take it yourself just like that. But once you have taken it, it should not be a mindless repetition. It should not be a mindless repetition. The japa, with or without counting of the number of repetitions, is the first prerequisite to meditation. In this process, japa sahita dhyana, it warms up the mental framework for it to be ready to plunge in the great exercise of meditation. But japa is only a beginning stage in the actual process of meditation. You keep on doing the japa, as I told you, with or without counting. As the process of japa intensifies, follow me carefully, as the process of japa intensifies means what? Intensifies means you have started concentrating on the words or the syllable, on the mantra or the meaning or whatever. Your thoughts are not going outside. Even here, this is not one-pointed, but we are now heading towards that one-pointedness. With the concentration steadied more or less perfectly, no disturbance, no distraction, no extraneous thought, like that. That is what I mean by steadied more or less perfectly. Slowly, even the verbalization of the mantra will stop. Only a mental cognition of the words of the mantra without any lip movement. Yatachittendriya kriya. Even the lip movement has to stop, will stop naturally. If you go on ceaselessly repeating the mantra, concentrating on it, and the mind not allowing the mind to go outside. So mental cognition of the words of the mantra without any lip movement. Even the slightest movement of the tongue has to stop. That is, you should not, will not do Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Even that movement of the tongue. So then it is now only the mental cognition. This is called, this process thus slowly merges into what one may call silent japa. Silent japa, mauna japa, is declared to be several times more powerful than vocalized japa. Of course, you have to start with vocalized japa. Nobody can start with a silent japa right in the beginning. But what started apparently as a thoughtless and mindless recapitulation, you see, you might have been given, some big guru might have taught you that. This seems to be a mindless occupation, thoughtless and mindless occupation of repeating magic syllables. This is how it started perhaps. But what started like this now becomes, when it slides into a silent japa, don't force it. It will automatically slide into a silent japa, right? So now becomes a genuine appeal of the heart. It sinks down into the inward life and transforms into a delight, happiness, sukha, natural to the soul. So the silent japa thus brings a thorough balance in the entire system. This is where the process of meditation has started. Till now it was all a preparation of meditation. The one-pointedness now has to be either towards the words of the short mantra or the visual picture that the mantra presents, or the mental idea that the mantra symbolizes. In fact, you can confirm this now by the fact that you can relax, you can detach yourself from the mind only of the mantra, mental cognition, not even verbal expression. So you can detach yourself from the mind and watch it from a distance, as it were. Relax and observe the peaceful vibrations within yourself. This one-pointedness is real meditation. Concentration is only an activity of the mind, but meditation involves the heart. After all the activity of the mind has ceased. This is the stage referred by Krishna in his slogan-like phrase in the shloka, Yukta asita matparaha manasamyamyamachitto Yukta asita matparaha. Yukta asita matparaha was already hinted at, said by Krishna in the second chapter. Right? Yukta asita matparaha. But he did not explain it there. This is where he is explaining. Yuktaha, he is already unionized with the Almighty. Yukta. Asita, he is sitting, doing nothing except the unionization with the Atman. Matparaha. So the thoughts are all directed towards the self, namely me. Me means Krishna. Right? Yukta asita. Wholly given up to me. The lower action of consciousness is now merged in the higher peace. You see, earlier the consciousness was mixed with all the Prakriti's actions outside, but now it is merged in the inner peace which is natural to the soul. Yukta asita matparaha. Later he is going to take the process of meditation and give a little more explanation from shloka number 24 onwards. When we come to that, we will get back to this, we will connect with that. So that is shloka number 14. Prashantatma vigatabi manassamyamyamachitto yukta asita matparaha. Yukta asita matparaha is the slogan for meditation. Slogan for meditation. So number 15, Yunjannevam sadatmanam, thus doing the yoga, Yunjan. He is never saying, never using the word dhyayan. Dhyana is used only in probably 2 places or 3 places. I have noted it somewhere. Yes, dhyana is used only in a few places. Not here. Anyway, I will come to that next time. But Yunjan evam, thus doing the yoga, sada uninterruptedly, atmanam, yogi niyata manasa. Underline the word niyata manasa. Control the mind comfortably and fully. Disciplined mind. It is now under full control. This is what's going to be referred to as atma sammanakritva. So what happens? Shantim adhigacchati. He attains, reaches that great peace. What is that peace? Nirvana paramam. Its destination is moksha, nirvana. Matsamstam, subject to me, abiding in me. Matsamstam, 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 nirvana paramam. Nirvana paramam. Parama is culmination. The culmination is moksha. Right? Bhagavad Gita uses dhyana. Here he uses the word yunjan only in 2 places, 12th chapter and 13th chapter. Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasat Jnanam vishishyate. When I come there, I will explain that. Dhyanena atmani pashyanti kechidatmanam atmana, 13th chapter. These are the only two places he used the word dhyana. Everywhere else he says yunjan, yogam. Anyway, this is the second stage of what you have always wanted to know about meditation. When we will come to the third stage in Shloka number 24. In the meantime, we are going to go next time from the next class to Shloka number 16 to 23, which is a separate chapter. I mean, it is a slightly not a digression, but takes you up. It tells you the end result. What does dhyana do? What is the end? How great it is, how majestic it is, how glorious it is. He waxes eloquent from Shloka number 16 to 23. We shall take this up in the next session. Yayena marpena mahim mahisha Gobrahmanebhya shubhamasya nityam lokas samastas sukhino bhavantu.